Hiya crafters, Amy here, and I have another Spread the Sparkle collaboration card to share with you today. Now I'm going to be using my blending brushes here, and I have a couple new stencils from the June release at A Colorful Life Designs. And these are only two of many stencils, so be sure to check out the rest. I have Aquatic Floor, which is a 6x9, and Flag Heart, which you can see is a 6x6, but I'm only going to be using that outer portion in today's card. And then I'm also going to be using this adorable sparkle blends. This is Kiss a Lot of Frogs, and this is from Doodle's Paper Playground. And if you aren't familiar with them, it's run by a woman named Amber. It's a small woman-owned business, and she makes these adorable sparkle blends. Now here's a couple photos of the card that I'm going to make for you today. You can see I actually turned it into a shaker with some tulle. So the way that I do this is just by starting off with a panel, and I'm doing some very light ink blending just because I don't want it to be too stark white. So I'm just using some residual ink on my blending brush. You can't even really see it on the screen. I apologize, but I assure you it's there. And then I'm just going to use this outer portion of the heart stencil just to kind of lay down the design. Now this month, A Colorful Life Designs is pairing up with Doodle's Paper Playground. So they're providing us with the sparkle blends, and we're providing them with the stencils. And our two design teams are working together to combine these awesome products and support small woman-owned business. So if you haven't checked out the shop before, I assure you there's so many cool blends to choose from, and I'll link the information in the video description box below, so be sure to check that out. And then I'll also link the June release so you can check out the rest of the stencils that are in the shop. And be sure to use my coupon AmyFan10 and save 10% on your complete order. Now here I'm just kind of using that outer heart portion and ink blending in with a couple greens. I have green tea and eucalyptus. These are from one of the spa collection lines from Catherine Pooler, and I'm just kind of going over in various different spots, no real rhyme or reason, but heavier handed in spots and lighter handed in others. And the reason I did the ink blending with the heart first is because I really wanted to show the full definition of that heart. I wanted to make sure the whole outline of the heart stood off against the background. If I just did it with the second stencil here, then it might not show that it's a heart. So here you can see it's clearly defined a heart, but it has all that cool texture on the inside from the aquatic floor. So this is going to essentially create the background for the card that I'm going to make today. And since it's a frog themed sparkle blend, I decided to use a frog stamp set. So I have this older stamp set from Stampendous, and it's got these hilarious frogs doing yoga with various little snarky sentiments. Now I don't feel like coloring this, so this is a fun way to kind of use some of your stamps, but just use them as an outline if you don't feel like coloring them. I mean, we don't always have to color them. They're very clear what the image is, so there's no rule that says you have to fill them in, and that's what I'm going with today. So I decided to even stamp them with the same colors that I used in the ink blending, so it's all a bit monochromatic, but I think it ended up working out well in the end. So I'm just using one of the, I think it's the green tea color here, and I'm just going to stamp it down a couple times. And that's the beauty of the Misty. If I don't get a good impression the first time, I can stamp it as many times as I need to. So I'm just using my press tool to push that down and make sure it's got all the lines covered and all the details. And then I decided to choose one of the little snarky sentiments and figure out where I want to put that. And that opening in the design was the perfect space for one of these little tiny sentiments from the stamp set. So I'm just using the cellophane just to line it up and kind of visually see how it's going to look. So that's one way to just use your packaging to see if it'll first of all fit in your space before you even take it off. And then you can do another trial to stamp it and make sure that it shows up. And you'll see that's what I do in a minute here. I ended up stamping it down on some scrap plastic first. I did switch it. This piece was too big, but I did switch it to another piece of, you can use cellophane or, packaging from your stamps, whatever you have. But this is a way to just test it out. Since you did all the work on the panel, you don't want to ruin it. You want to make sure that it stands out against that busy background. So here I'm just stamping it down on some plastic just to see how it looks and make sure it's straight. And then I can just wipe off that piece of plastic or bin it, whatever I'm going to do with it. And then I can rest assured that the stamp is going to look good in the space that I want it in. So here I'm just using my stamp chamois to wipe off that plastic, and then I'm going to leave it right where it's at and then stamp it down again with that same color green that I use on the frog. So push my little magnet out of the way, make sure it's inked up nice and thoroughly, and then press it down with my press tool. And it says, what does it say? I wish more people were fluent in silence. I feel like that's so applicable nowadays. It made me chuckle. So here is how you make a shaker with tulle. You may have seen some of my other videos. I do have a couple others where I've made this sort of card before, but it's honestly, I think, the easiest way that I've ever made a shaker. So I'm just using some score tape here. I was showing you, you can absolutely use that 1/4 inch score tape, but I find that this 3/4 inch really helps to hang on to the tulle. So if you have a thicker one, I recommend it, but if you don't and you only have the thin stuff, that will totally work too. You just want to make sure when you lay the second layer down, you get it really good coverage so that it'll attach to your card base without any issues. So here I'm just pulling these back, and then I'm going to slowly fold side by side onto this around to the back. Now there's not a lot of bulk. You don't want to pull too hard because you don't want the cardstock to bow, and you don't want to kind of make the holes bigger on the tulle. But I do kind of snip off the corners as I go, just to kind of get rid of that residual bulk, and that helps the card panel to lay flatter on the card base. So this sort of shaker is very preferable for shipping. You aren't going to have a lot of bulk. It's going to ship relatively easily because it's really not going to have a lot of thickness. Now here I'm going to have this sparkle blend laid out in my little dish here so you can see some of the cute little pieces, but lots of yellows and greens. There's these adorable little lips, which you'll see what I do with that later, but there's a little crown, there's little frogs. But for this, since I'm pretty monochromatic, I'm just going to pull out the little lips. See, there's the little frog. These are just so cute. Be sure to check out the shop, guys. There's so many adorable blends in her shop. It's just unbelievable, the attention to detail that she puts into all these blends. She makes them herself. She decides what pieces will look well together, and I just think that's a real talent right there. I'm not sure I could create these awesome blends like she does, but here you just basically make a pocket and then pour it in, and then you can remove the backer of that tape and then close it off. So I'm just making sure that I have a good amount in here, and that it's moving okay. If you have any little super teeny tiny pieces, parts in your blend, you might want to take those out if you're going to do this sort of shaker, just because it is tulle, and there are little holes. But here you'll see I got a little too aggressive with the trimming off, and I kind of cut the corner. So I ended up having to carefully pull this all off and do it all again. So don't be like me. Take your time and don't get anywhere near the actual corner when you're cutting off that bulk. So just be really careful with that, and then it'll be fine. Now here you can see I'm coming in again. So the tulle is already on there. The shaker is essentially completed, but now you need to do another round of tape because you need that adhesive to hold it to your card base. There is a little bit of stickiness that comes through the tulle, but it's not enough to securely hold it on your card base. So you definitely want to do that other round. So here I'm just going to pull back. Here's a little trick. You can pull them back just halfway, and then you have a little bit more wiggle room to line it up on your card base when you lay it down. And then once you know you have it in the spot that you want, then you can just pull off the rest of the back or the rest of the way. And this is a little tricky because it does really want to hang on to the tulle, so it can be a little fiddly trying to get this off. But I do end up putting a little bit of liquid glue in the corners of these just because, as you can see, I wasn't very good about getting the tape all the way to the end. So you can remedy this by just doing a better job than me, and putting enough tape down from edge to edge. And now I attached it to a card base. This is A2 size 110-pound cardstock, and I stamped on the inside, and now I have to use one of these ridiculous little lip innards from this sparkle blend. I can't even handle it. I think we joked about this, Al and I did, on one of her lives for sparkle blends, but I just had to. I knew the lips would be the perfect size for this little frog, so I had to add it as a unexpected surprise. So I wish more people were fluent in silence. And then on the inside, this hilarious little clay lips. And namaste. So I hope you enjoyed this card. Please do check out Doodle's Paper Playground. There's so many fun blends. And also check out the June release at A Colorful Life Designs. So these stencils pair amazingly with the sparkle blends, and I know I'm so excited to be doing this collaboration with them. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll check you next time. Bye.